Commission on Antisemitism and Social Cohesion is now in session.
We will commence today's proceeding by calling on Uncle Alan Murray to give us a welcome to country. Uncle Alan is a Wiradjuri and a Kamilaroi man. His father comes from the Kamunja village on the Murray and was a member, or is a member, of the Stolen generation. His mother is a Kamilaroi woman from northwestern New South Wales. Uncle Alan is currently the chairperson of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council. So I now call on Uncle Alan to give us a welcome to country.
Many thanks. In the corresponding welcome to country, I want to acknowledge that we're on Gadigal land, and given the circumstances what occurred in December, it means that sorrow and business is part of the way of life, as we see in Australia. But also I want to acknowledge our greatest warriors, Pemoi, Bangaroo, Mosquito, and Windanight. These are our legendary warriors who fought for this country. And a welcome to country is about talking about their relationship to the land. In particular, when the tall ships came through Sydney Harbour in 1770. We're still fighting for our land rights. We're still fighting for our sovereignty because we never signed a piece of paper to say we're giving up this land. But a welcome to country is about sharing our beliefs and understanding our customs and our way of life. Because truly, we have faced many diversities over the past since 1770. And we know that atrocities have been committed against us, and we're still wanting a reckoning. Like yourselves, you're finding a reckoning and a solution to the problems we faced every day since 1770, about Australians respecting us and Australians respecting all of us. And because we had a failed referendum, like yourselves, we feel your pain, we feel your sorrow, and we feel that. But a welcome to country is about understanding why you come to these lands, because this is a land of opportunity, but also it means that First Nations people from here, from Bondi to Sydney, there are something in the order of like 54 clans that make up all the Aboriginal clans here in New South Wales. But here in Sydney, we've got 29 clans. And the only two surviving clans that live today are the Gadigal people and the Bidjigal people of La Perouse. Myself, like the Commissioner said in the brief, is that my parents come from far wider places, but because of the past policies, it means that Aboriginal people have been flowing into Sydney since the 1770, pushing Aboriginal people off land. And we do understand that. But the goodwill of us, in terms of our sorrow and our business, we still have a reckoning. But a welcome to country is about exploring all this. And I wish the Commissioner well. And I hope that one day you would feel fit and proper to conduct the proceedings on land so we can mix the dirt, smoke the bush, and have a proper smoking ceremony. So with that, good morning to you.
Thank you for that warm, inclusive and empathetic welcome to country, Uncle Alan. This is the initial sitting of the Royal Commission on Antisemitism and Social Cohesion. The Commission was established by letters patent signed by the Governor-General on 9 January 2026. Since that date, letters patent in identical terms have been issued by the governors of each of the states. Under each of the letters patent, the Commission is required to examine and report on the matters that are identified in 4 terms of reference. I don't propose to refer to all of them in full. They can be accessed on the Commission's website. What I propose to do is to outline the three principal terms, and I'm going to do that in reverse order. The third term requires the Commission to examine the anti-Semitic attack at Bondi Beach on the 14th of December 2025, including the lead-up and planning of this atrocity. One might expect that a Royal Commission set up to inquire into an attack would lead evidence of it and of the heroism of those who sought to confront the shooters and of those who ran towards the gunfire to offer medical assistance to the wounded. An individual has been charged with a terrorism offence, with 15 counts of murder and with 40 counts of attempted murder arising out of the attack. The trial of that individual will be the occasion to lead evidence of the attack. This Commission must do its work without risking any prejudice to that criminal proceeding. Leading evidence at this Commission from people who may be witnesses in the criminal proceeding would create that risk, and for that reason it will not occur. I have extended an invitation through the New South Wales Police and a representative of the Jewish Board of Deputies to the families of the deceased and to others directly affected by the attack to meet me later this week in less formal surroundings so that I can explain more fully the limitations on the scope of the matters that the Commission can address in public having regard to the criminal proceeding, and to enable them to ask any questions they may have about how the Commission proposes to proceed. The third term of reference also requires the Commission to examine the interaction and information sharing between Commonwealth, state and territory agencies and between those agencies and the organisers of the Hanukkah event. The Commission is to investigate the security arrangements for that event and to report on whether our intelligence and law enforcement agencies performed to maximum effectiveness. This assessment necessarily requires consideration of whether these agencies had appropriate powers and systems, and whether the existing legislative framework and protocols governing the release of information prevented any agency from taking appropriate preventative action. In this connection, the Commission is asked to identify any gaps in the legal and regulatory frameworks that might impede the ability of law enforcement, border control, immigration and security agencies to prevent and respond to an attack of this character. The Commission is to deliver an interim report to the Governor-General and the Governors of the states not later than 30 April 2026 that focuses on this third term of reference and that identifies any issues that require urgent or immediate action. Mr. Dennis Richardson AC had commenced inquiring into several of the matters that are the subject of this third term of reference at the time the Commission was established. Following its establishment, Mr. Richardson agreed to continue his work as a special advisor to the Commission. Mr. Richardson is uniquely well placed to advise on the material that the Commission should seek from our intelligence and security agencies in order to test the effectiveness of our preparedness for a terrorist attack. Not only is he the former Director General of ASIO, but he has a deep understanding of the workings of the Commonwealth Government, having served as Secretary to the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Department of Defence. Less than 3 weeks after the attack, Mr. Richardson had notified the various intelligence, national security and law enforcement agencies of the material that he would need to review in order that he could complete his inquiry. The first task following the establishment of this commission was to issue notices to produce, largely in the terms that Mr. Richardson had foreshadowed in his correspondence to the agencies, to compel them to produce these materials. Perhaps inevitably, the absorption of an administrative inquiry into this Royal Commission has led to some delay. This is the first Royal Commission in nearly 50 years to investigate aspects of the work of the Australian intelligence community. Intelligence agencies that might have made material available to an internal review without the need for getting legal advice found it necessary to consider questions of public interest immunity, statutory non-disclosure provisions and legal professional privilege when faced with a requirement to produce the same material to an independent Royal Commission. The delays in obtaining and accessing material have made it unlikely that counsel assisting the Commission will be in a position to adduce evidence concerning the adequacy of the security arrangements for the Hanukkah event and aspects of the effectiveness of the work of intelligence and law enforcement agencies before the deadline for the production of the interim report. That evidence may end up being led after the interim report is delivered, and in that case it will form part of the final report. An evident purpose of requiring the preparation of an interim report is to identify matters that require urgent or immediate action, whether that's legislative or administrative. I am confident of being in a position to do that by 30 April 2026. The Commission's second term of reference requires it to make recommendations to assist law enforcement, border control, immigration and security agencies to tackle anti-Semitism. In addressing this term, the Commission will look at the training of officers of those agencies on how they should respond to anti-Semitic conduct or the risk of that conduct. Importantly, the Commission will review protective security for Jewish places of worship, major sites, educational and cultural facilities, public events and community leaders. The first term of reference is a broad one. It requires the Commission to investigate the nature and prevalence of anti-Semitism in institutions and society by examining its key drivers in Australia, including religious and ideologically motivated extremism and radicalisation. The Commission is to report on the ways in which governments can respond to anti-Semitism. Allied to this is the fourth term of reference, which permits me to make other recommendations arising out of the inquiry that would contribute to strengthening social cohesion and countering the spread of ideologically and religiously motivated extremism. The starting point in addressing this first term of reference requires an understanding of what constitutes anti-Semitism. This is not a subject that is free of controversy. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, which from now on I shall refer to as IRA, has developed a non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism. This is a definition that has been adopted by many liberal democracies. It was adopted by the Australian government in October 2021 under Prime Minister Morrison, and following the May 2022 federal election, Prime Minister Albanese affirmed that adoption. The IRA definition has been adopted or is supported by the governments of the states. It's the function of this commission to make recommendations to governments about how best to tackle anti-Semitism, and it makes evident sense for the Commission to apply the same definition as the Commonwealth and the states in formulating these recommendations. It follows that in investigating the nature and prevalence of anti-Semitism in Australia, the Commission will apply the IRA working definition. The definition itself is uncontroversial. It provides anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as a hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. The definition is accompanied by 11 examples of conduct which could amount to anti-Semitism. At least 2 of the examples are controversial and have led some critics to argue that the IRA working definition wrongly labels as anti-Semitic the expression of political views which do not reflect a hatred of Jews. While I'm open to receiving submissions on the issue, my current view is that these concerns pay insufficient regard to the terms of the definition itself, and they're apt to overlook the requirement to take account of the overall context in which conduct occurs before making any determination that the conduct is anti-Semitic. I should note that it is uncontroversial that criticism of the policies that may be pursued by the government of Israel from time to time is not of itself anti-Semitic. Examining the ways in which we might strengthen social cohesion in Australia could well be the work of years, not months. I am required to deliver my final report to the Governor-General and the governors of the states not later than the first anniversary of the Bondi massacre. Anniversaries are important. The first anniversary for those directly affected by it and for the broader Jewish and Bondi communities is going to be a difficult time. I acknowledge that for some it will never be right to speak of closure. But one small part of coming to terms with the events of that evening will be the work of this commission. I regard the delivery of my report on or before the first anniversary as a matter of critical importance. This imposes a tight time frame, and it's going to impose limitations on how the Commission approaches its terms of reference. My focus will be a practical one. I encourage members of the community who have an interest in any of the Commission's terms of reference to visit the Commission's website. A submission can be made by any person using the online form or by email. I'm interested in hearing from Jewish Australians who've experienced anti-Semitism, whether at school or at university or in the workplace or elsewhere. Making a submission does not commit a person to giving evidence in public, and no person will be pressured to do so. But I am confident that there will be members of the Jewish community who are willing to give evidence in public about their experiences of anti-Semitism, and that their accounts may be illustrative of wider patterns. In this way, the Commission will seek to assess the impact of anti-Semitism on the daily life of Jewish Australians, and this is an important aspect of the first term of reference. I'm mindful that while anti-Semitism may be the oldest religious and ethnic prejudice, other religions and ethnicities are also subject to prejudice in Australia. I expect that social cohesion will be advanced by measures that address discrimination against religious faiths, ethnicities and cultures generally. Nonetheless, against the background of the massacre of innocent people who appear to have been targeted simply because they were Jewish, I trust everyone will appreciate why the focus of this Commission will be on tackling anti-Semitism as a starting point in strengthening our bonds of social cohesion. I will now call on Senior Counsel Assisting to outline the practices and procedures that he proposes the Commission adopt, and to give a broad indication of the nature of the evidence that he anticipates leading before the Commission. Mr. Lancaster.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm pleased to announce formally my appearance as Senior Counsel Assisting the Royal Commission. Appearing with me as Senior Counsel Assisting is Ms. Zelly Hager, SC, and with us Ms. Tamara Phillips, Ms. Eleanor Jones and Mr. Joe Petrie, seated at the bar table today. The central task of the Counsel Assisting team is to assist you, Commissioner, to inquire into the issues set out in the terms of reference and report upon them by the dates set out in the letters patent. Council will work closely with the solicitors assisting the Commission. There will be a team of solicitors, ably led by Ms. Louise Amundsen and Mr. Tony Juni. The Commission has the ongoing benefit of the vast experience of Mr. Dennis Richardson, AC, and those who are assisting him at the time of the commencement of this Commission. The staff of the Commission includes analysts, researchers, support officers and other corporate staff. The administration of the Royal Commission is undertaken by the Office of the Official Secretary, Ms. Anne Sheehan. The anti-Semitic attack on Jewish Australians in Bondi on 14 December 2025 was a truly horrifying event. Like in so many other parts of Sydney and Australia, members of our community were enjoying a summer Sunday evening gathering at a public park near the beach. But a Jewish celebration for Hanukkah, a festival of light, 15 people were killed. Many others were seriously wounded, and their lives will never be the same. There are many people who have been left with serious psychological scars from that day. The Council Assisting team acknowledge with great sadness the immense trauma this has caused Jewish Australians. And members of the community living in Bondi, those visiting for a meal or a swim that evening, those who bravely rushed to help, and many others throughout Sydney and Australia have been deeply affected by the attack. Commissioner, you've summarised the terms of reference and they are available to be read on the Royal Commission website, asc.royalcommission.gov.au. As you've mentioned, all 6 state jurisdictions have also issued terms of reference in similar form. One benefit of that occurring is that it demonstrates a truly national imperative to tackle anti-Semitism. Another is the practical benefit that you have and may exercise the powers of a Royal Commissioner under both Commonwealth legislation and state legislation. The Royal Commission website is the official hub for public information about the activities of the inquiry. In your remarks today, you invited public submissions, and if any individuals or organisations wish to make a submission, please visit the website for details about how to do so. People can also subscribe to the Royal Commission mailing list through the website to remain up to date with its activities. The terms of reference stipulate that the interim report is to focus on issues requiring urgent or immediate action. If members of the public who wish to make a submission intend to draw attention to matters that they consider require urgent or immediate action, the Commission should receive those submissions by the 13th of March. Otherwise, the Commission will continue to receive submissions in April and in May. I'll now address some important aspects of the procedures of the Royal Commission for the information of the public and for the particular attention of those who may become more closely involved in the work of the Commission as witnesses or interested persons or organisations. The Royal Commission has recently prepared a number of practice notes to guide its procedures. You, Commissioner, will review these as necessary to ensure they are promoting the efficiency and effectiveness of Commission procedures. These practice guidelines are, by way of brief summary, firstly, a general practice guideline explaining the Commission and how it operates, how to communicate with the Royal Commission and make submissions, and expectations as to how evidence before the Commission will be published. This also explains how confidentiality applications might be made. The second is a guideline covering hearings, which explains the way in which hearings are expected to run, the process of obtaining leave to appear before the Commission, and the process for examining and cross-examining any witnesses called. The third practice note is a document production guideline, which explains the mechanics for producing material to the Commission, including how to make claims of confidentiality over documentary material that is produced. This guideline contains a detailed document production protocol which explains how documents should be saved and coded for upload via the Commission's electronic systems. The work of the Commission will certainly proceed more efficiently if the procedures in this guideline are followed. Finally, there is a guideline addressing how claims for legal professional privilege will be dealt with by the Commission. Can I add that in relation to leave to appear before the Royal Commission, in due course the solicitors assisting the Commission will fix a time for the submission of applications for leave to appear. This will be notified. In the usual course, such applications will be dealt with by the Commissioner on the papers in advance of a relevant hearing. As you have indicated, Commissioner, the terms of reference require questions to be asked and answered about anti-Semitism in Australia leading up to the attack and about the steps taken by law enforcement and security agencies to protect the community. There is one important issue that must be addressed immediately and publicly. You have done so, but I do wish to repeat it. It's also an issue that is relevant to the scope and content of the interim report due on the 30th of April. The letters patent refer to the necessity for the inquiry to be conducted in a manner that does not occasion prejudice to current or future criminal proceedings or national security or undermine social cohesion. As you've mentioned, and as is widely known, the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions is currently prosecuting criminal proceedings against an accused person who is charged with committing a terrorist act, 15 counts of murder, 40 counts of attempted murder, and other offences. The currency of the prosecution and the nature of the charges brought against the accused are such that it is not possible for this Commission to inquire into and report on a number of the elements of Term of Reference C, which, as you have summarised, is the third term of reference concerning the circumstances of the Bondi attack. This Commission and the steps it takes in its important work of gathering evidence will not interfere with the administration of justice or otherwise prejudice that prosecution. Receipt of evidence from those who may be witnesses in the criminal proceedings would carry that risk, and as you've indicated, Commissioner, that will not be done. For the same reason, we do not propose to conduct public hearings on the matters with which those pending charges are concerned, and judgment will need to be exercised about where that line is to be drawn. This will inevitably reduce the scope of the Commission's public hearings and the Commissioner's public reports on some issues, but it is necessary to preserve the proper administration of criminal justice. Turning now to evidence gathering to support the report and recommendations of the Royal Commission, the Council Assisting Team will lead evidence relevant to the terms of reference. A great deal of the evidence will be documentary. This Commission has already issued dozens of notices to produce to Commonwealth and state agencies and various other organisations of interest. Some documents have been produced and continue to be produced in answer to those notices to produce. There are also further notices to produce that are yet to be issued. It is also proposed to lead evidence from relevant persons by way of witness statements. The Commission will also hear oral evidence from witnesses in person, including expert evidence. The process of document production by some recipients of notices is not presently where we would like it to be. Commissioner, in light of the very tight timeline within which you are required to inquire and report, it is appropriate for you, in my submission, not to countenance any delay at all in the production of documents or witness statements that are required to be produced. The Royal Commissions Act 1902 of the Commonwealth and relevant state equivalent legislation contain ample powers to require the attendance of witnesses to explain any delay. Council Assisting proposed to lead evidence on at least the following 4 broad topics. The first is to identify anti-Semitic conduct in its various forms in Australian society, including by hearing from Jewish Australians about their own lived and living experiences of anti-Semitism. This will examine the large number and increasing prominence of anti-Semitic incidents in Australia in recent years and indeed in recent days. The second broad topic is to inquire into the drivers of anti-Semitism, including ideologically and religiously motivated extremism, radicalisation pathways, and vectors for extremist content online and in institutions. This will include considering the actions of individuals or groups professing racist or far-right ideology or extreme cultural or religious prejudice. The Commission will explore ways to counter the spread of extremism in Australia. The fourth broad topic is to identify what law enforcement and security agencies have been doing to tackle anti-Semitic conduct and how the response could be improved for the protection of the community. The fourth broad topic is an inquiry into the circumstances leading up to and surrounding the attack on 14 December. Subject to what I've said earlier about being careful not to prejudice the criminal proceeding, this will include an inquiry into threat assessments and information sharing by agencies, the steps taken by agencies in response to the planned event at Bondi and to secure it, and steps taken in response to the attack itself. The Royal Commission has already commenced informing itself about many of these topics, including by informal meetings and roundtables with numerous individuals and organisations. Council Assisting look forward to continuing that process and to working closely with interested community organisations to advance the work of the Commission. The letters patent refer to social cohesion as the national consensus in support of democracy, freedom and the rule of law. The consensus to which the letters patent refer is not a uniformity of opinion, nor does it require or involve the suppression of fair criticism and debate. It is quite the opposite in my submission. It is a consensus that a diverse multicultural society can subsist and thrive only by mutual acceptance of our respective democratic freedoms exercised according to law. Social cohesion begins with empathy. A large part of the work of this Commission will be to present evidence to allow a broader understanding of the scourge of anti-Semitism, its nature and prevalence throughout Australian society, and its impact on the lives of fellow Australians. Through that understanding, there may be opportunities to improve. The schedule of hearing days on which the Royal Commission will sit in public to hear evidence has not yet been fixed. Hearing days will be notified on the Royal Commission website. That process will begin as soon as practicable, having regard to the production of relevant documents and witness statements and the requirements of procedural fairness. The terms of reference require an inquiry into very substantial issues in a short space of time. Commissioner, the final product of the Royal Commission will be your report and the recommendations you make to the Commonwealth and state governments. The consideration and implementation of those recommendations will be a matter for those governments. In my submission, the Commission ought now be adjourned to a date to be fixed.
Thank you, Mr. Lancaster. The Commission will now adjourn to a date to be fixed.